Have you ever looked at a world map and noticed, way up in the northern corner of Europe, there's a tiny country. A country that, if you decided to visit, would give you more than just snow, chilly winds, and quiet streets. Welcome to Estonia. But this is not just a story about geography. This is the story of a land where humans and the internet, nature and technology, cold winds and warm hearts all live together in perfect balance. Small name, big soul. Estonia. Small to pronounce, yet holding thousands of years of history inside it. Its population, barely 1.4 million. Think about it. The entire country could fit into one neighborhood of Delhi or New York. Its capital, Tallinn. And here's a fun fact. 1 out of every 3 Estonians lives right here in this city, walking through history. When you walk through Tallinn's old streets, it feels like stepping onto a movie set. Cobblestone roads, wooden houses that have stood for centuries, and a gentle mist floating in the air. There's a magic here that can't be replicated. But the real magic isn't just in the city. It's in the deep, endless forests that cover nearly half of Estonia. And these aren't just trees, they are the country's heartbeat. The laws here are so strict that you can't cut down a single tree without permission. And maybe that's why, when the cold wind passes through these forests, it carries a freshness that seeps right into your chest, as if the land itself is breathing with you. A nation of islands. Estonia isn't just one landmass. It's a family of over 1,500 islands. But unlike Greece, where every island is buzzing with tourists, hotels, and cafes, Estonia's islands are mostly silent, left to the whispers of the wind and the sound of the sea. The Internet Republic. Today, Estonia is known worldwide as the Internet Republic. Its digital system is so fast, so advanced, that many bigger nations can't keep up. Here, the internet is not just a service, it's a human right. Like water and air. It's fast, it's secure, and it's cheap. Wherever you stand, with just one click, you can connect to the whole world. Democracy and open borders. But don't think Estonia is only about technology and cold weather. It's a democratic parliamentary republic and became the 17th member of the Eurozone in 2011. This means Estonians can travel, live, and work anywhere in Europe without restrictions, a freedom that has lifted their quality of life and their happiness. The weather, a serious player. However, if you're planning to visit, you need to understand one thing. Estonia's cold is not a joke. In summer, temperatures rarely go above 17 degrees Celsius, 62 degrees Fahrenheit. In winter, minus 10 degrees Celsius, 14 degrees Fahrenheit, is common. And snow can last for months. It often feels like winter is the ruler of the land. If you come during spring or summer, you'll enjoy open skies and long daylight hours. Otherwise, you'll likely spend your time indoors, sipping hot tea, watching the frost on your window. This is Estonia's first face, a country small in size, but overflowing with stories, a place where the cold air hides a quiet, deep warmth. But this is only the beginning. In the next part, we'll step deeper into daily life, into how people live here, and why this society is unlike anywhere else in the world. Part 2. Everyday life in Estonia. The real story behind the snowy streets. When you first walk through the snowy streets of Estonia, the country feels like something out of a fairy tale. Quiet, beautiful, and perfectly organized. But if you pause for a moment and look beyond the postcard perfect scenery, you'll see an entirely different picture of everyday life here. Wages and what they mean here. The minimum monthly wage in Estonia is around 886 euros. On paper, that might seem low, and yes, compared to many other European nations, it is. But the real question is, what can you actually do with that money here? Because sometimes, even a smaller income can be enough for a comfortable life if things are affordable and if the system works fairly. In reality, very few people here earn just the minimum wage. Most salaries range anywhere from 1,600 euros to 10,000 euros a month, with the higher end, of course, belonging to top corporate executives. If you're a general laborer, you might take home about 1,100 euros. A software developer or IT engineer, anywhere between 3,000 euros and 7,000 euros. Teachers, usually 1,500 euros to 2,000 euros. The standard work week is 40 hours, spread over 5 or sometimes 6 days. And for those aged 18 or above who are unemployed. The government provides an allowance of around €300 a month, just enough to cover basic needs while you look for work. Honestly, if you have skills in computers or software, Estonia can feel like a goldmine. Its tech sector is so advanced that it can catapult your career years ahead of schedule. And if you're happy with your main job but want some extra income, many people here do part-time Uber driving, food delivery, or weekend waiting shifts at cafes and bars. It's not unusual, and it can add a nice cushion to your monthly budget. Languages on the streets. Walking through the streets, you'll hear a mix of languages. The official language is Estonian, which sounds somewhat similar to Finnish, making it easy for people from both countries to understand each other. During the Soviet era, Russian dominated public life, so today it's still spoken by many, especially the older generation. In cities, you'll also find plenty of English and German speakers. This multilingual environment isn't just a convenience, it's a reflection of the country's education level. Estonia boasts one of the highest literacy rates in the world. Perhaps it's the small population, but education here is deeply valued, and reading and writing are universal skills. A nation of skeptics. Here's where Estonia surprises a lot of outsiders. Around 80% of the population does not actively practice any religion. In fact, it's often called the most atheistic country in the world. Only about 16% say they believe in God. There's even a local joke: you come to Estonia believing in God, but you leave as an atheist. Those who are religious are mostly Western Christians, while the Russian minority tends to be Eastern Orthodox. The Muslim community is tiny, around 3,000 people, mostly of Tatar and Azerbaijani origin. Nights in Estonia. Step outside after 8 p.m. and the streets transform. Shops close, public spaces go quiet, and only the faint sound of music from a distant bar might break the silence. It's not an eerie silence. It's peaceful, almost comforting. This is a country that doesn't rush. It breathes slowly. Safety and society. Estonia ranks among the safest countries in Europe. Serious crimes like assaults, fraud, or harassment are rare. For women, the statistics are even more striking. They not only outnumber men here, but they also live, on average, 10 years longer. Estonia holds the one spot in Europe for its female-to-male ratio. And yes, some of the world's top supermodels are from here. Tall frames, blonde hair, striking eyes. It's part of the genetic makeup. It's not uncommon for young women to choose modeling over university, and many find success internationally in just a few years. The reserved nature of Estonians. Here's something that might surprise visitors from the US or Southern Europe. Estonians are reserved, especially with strangers. In America, you might casually greet a stranger on the street. Here, that would feel unusual, even intrusive. First impressions are often formed by appearances. If you look very different from the local skin tone or style, you may notice a cooler reception at first, but don't take it personally. Friendships here take time, but once you've earned someone's trust, it tends to last a lifetime. So that's a glimpse into everyday life in Estonia, a mix of modest incomes, high education, quiet nights, and deep-rooted safety. Part 3. Estonia, the small nation that made internet a human right. Imagine this, a country so small, you could drive across it in just a few hours. But in terms of vision and innovation, it stands taller than many of the world's largest nations. In Estonia, the internet isn't just a convenience, it's a fundamental human right. Yes, just like access to food, water, or shelter, you are legally entitled to it. Whether you're in the middle of the capital city, deep in a forest, or standing on a remote island in the Baltic Sea, Wi-Fi follows you. The average internet speed, around 41 megabits per second. And here's the kicker: in most public places, it's free. How did such a tiny country pull this off? The secret lies in two things: its size and its mindset. Estonia's total area is just 45,228 square kilometers. That's 17 times smaller than Turkey and smaller than many single states in India or the US. Covering this compact space with high-speed networks, technically much easier than wiring a massive country. But the real magic wasn't in the cables, it was in the mindset shift. Back in the late 1990s, the internet was still considered a luxury in most of the world. Then, in the year 2000, Estonia made a bold, almost crazy-sounding decision. From now on, All government work will be digital. Paper is over. At a time when huge countries were still drowning in paperwork and filing cabinets, Estonians started paying taxes online, registering businesses online, and accessing public services without ever standing in line. And they didn't stop there. In schools, children as young as 7 years old began learning coding. Even the smallest rural villages got computer access. Fast forward to today, Estonia is at least 20 years ahead of many nations in digital governance. Here, even voting is online. If you're an Estonian citizen living abroad, you can cast your ballot in national elections with just a few clicks from anywhere in the world. Only a handful of countries have managed to create such a secure system. Then came their boldest idea yet, digital residency. This means you don't have to live in Estonia to be part of its digital economy. You can apply online, get a secure digital ID, start a company, open a bank account, and operate under Estonian law, all without setting foot in the country. Why? Because Estonia faced a serious problem. Its population was, and still is, tiny, around 1.4 to 1.5 million people. Low birth rates meant fewer workers in the future. So they thought, if we can't grow our population physically, let's grow it digitally by inviting skilled, ambitious people from anywhere in the world to become digital residents. Estonia boosted its economy and built a global network of entrepreneurs, all tied to its systems. Today, digital residency brings in millions of euros in taxes and business fees every year. The real foundation: trust. But here's something even more important than technology trust. Estonians trust their government with their data. They trust the systems that handle their documents, their votes, their business records. This trust wasn't built overnight. It came from transparency, strong laws, and a shared belief that technology should be used not to control people, but to empower them. And maybe that's why people around the world look at Estonia and call it the country of the future. But being this far ahead digitally also changes other parts of life. It shapes how people work, how they learn, and even how they travel. And that's exactly where we're headed next. Part 4, moving through Estonia, where travel feels effortless. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine stepping out into a city where the air is crisp, the streets are clean, and the sound you hear most is silence. Not because the city is empty, but because there's almost no traffic. This is Estonia, a place where travel, whether within the city or across the country, is surprisingly simple, almost frictionless. Inside the cities, Tallinn, the capital, might look like a medieval fairy tale with its cobblestone streets and historic walls, but move through it and you'll notice something modern. Buses, trams, and trolleybuses gliding past for free. Yes, for residents, public transport in many Estonian cities, including Tallinn, costs nothing. You just tap your digital ID and you're on your way. For visitors, tickets are cheap, but it's the reliability that stands out. In a country where winters can bury streets under snow, public transport still runs on time, almost like clockwork. Between cities, Estonia isn't big. The distance from Tallinn in the north to Tartu in the south is only about 185 kilometers, roughly a 2-hour drive. Buses and trains connect major towns at regular intervals, and because of the compact size, you're never far from your next stop. The countryside flashes past your window, pine forests dusted with snow in winter, wildflower meadows in summer, and lakes that seem to mirror the sky. And there's a certain peacefulness in this. No endless hours on the road, no exhausting overnight journeys. In Estonia, travel feels light, a sea connection. But the most interesting travel link isn't even on land, it's across the water. Tallinn sits on the Gulf of Finland, and just 80 kilometers across that water is Helsinki, Finland's capital. And here's where things get fascinating. Every day, ferries shuttle thousands of people between these two cities. The ride takes just around 2 hours, and it has created a bond that's more than just geographical. Finns come to Estonia for a weekend getaway to enjoy the food, the historic old town, and yes, the lower prices. Estonians go to Finland for work, shopping, or simply to experience a slightly different culture. Some people even commute, living in one country, working in the other. In a way, the Baltic Sea isn't a barrier between them, it's a bridge, traveling beyond the mainland. And let's not forget, Estonia has over 1,500 islands. Some are large and inhabited, like Saaremaa and Hiiumaa, with their windmills and lighthouses. Others are tiny, wild, and untouched, just a patch of land surrounded by water and silence. Ferries connect these islands to the mainland, and in winter, when the sea freezes, you can even drive across ice roads, a surreal experience that feels like driving on a frozen mirror. Why travel feels different here. In Estonia, movement doesn't feel rushed. There's no frantic push through crowded subways, no endless waiting in traffic jams. Part of it is the country's size. Part of it is the efficiency of its systems. But maybe it's also the mindset and unspoken agreement that life doesn't need to be lived at maximum speed all the time. And yet, even with this calm pace, Estonia is deeply connected, not just internally, but to the rest of Europe. From Tallinn, you can hop on a ferry to Finland, catch a bus to Latvia, or fly to almost any major city in Europe in a matter of hours. For such a small country, Estonia feels open, like a gateway between the Baltic and the world. But transportation is only part of the story, because moving easily through a country doesn't mean much if you don't know what to stop and see. Part 5. Estonia's wild heart, where nature still rules. If you've been following our journey so far, you already know that Estonia is small in size. But here's the surprising part. Almost half of it is covered in forest. Not manicured parks, not neatly arranged tree lines. We're talking about wild, deep, breathing forests. Forests that, in winter, are blanketed in snow so thick you can hear the silence. Forests that, in spring, explode into 1,000 shades of green. Forests where you could walk for hours and meet more deer than people. A country that protects its green lungs. In Estonia, cutting down a tree without permission isn't just frowned upon, it's against the law. Nature here isn't just scenery, it's part of the national identity. There are national parks and nature reserves scattered all across the country, each with its own personality. Lahemaa National Park, for example, sits just east of Tallinn. It's a place where rocky coastlines meet dense woodlands, where waterfalls tumble over ancient boulders, and where traditional Estonian fishing villages still look much like they did centuries ago. Then there's Summa National Park, famous for what locals call the fifth season. It happens when melting snow and heavy rain flood the land, turning fields into lakes and forests into floating islands. During this time, the only way to travel is by canoe, gliding silently over what was once a meadow. Wetlands, bogs, and the mystical silence. Estonia's bogs and wetlands are unlike anything you'll find in most of Europe. They're ancient, some over 10,000 years old, with dark, tea-colored waters and moss that feels like stepping on a sponge. Visit early in the morning, and you might see mist curling up from the ground, making the place look like something out of a fantasy novel. It's quiet, but not dead. If you listen closely, you'll hear the calls of cranes, the splash of a beaver, or the rustle of a fox in the undergrowth. For Estonians, bogs are places of legend and spirit, places where the veil between the natural and the mystical feels very thin. The islands, nature's time capsules. Remember the 1,500 islands we talked about in the last part? Many of them are pure wilderness, untouched by modern development. On Hiiumaa, you'll find windmills standing like sentinels, and beaches where you can walk for kilometers without seeing another soul. On Saaremaa, juniper-covered fields stretch to the horizon, and the smell of pine mixes with the salty Baltic breeze. These islands feel timeless, as if the rest of the world is rushing forward, but they're content to move at nature's pace. Wildlife encounters. Because so much of the country is forest and wetland, wildlife thrives here. Brown bears roam the woodlands, lynxes move like ghosts through the undergrowth, and elk stand tall in the meadows at dusk. Birdwatchers travel from around the world to see Estonia's migratory birds, from majestic white-tailed eagles to thousands of geese filling the sky in spring and autumn. Why nature matters here. In many countries, nature is something you visit, a weekend getaway. But in Estonia, it's part of daily life. Even in Tallinn, you're never more than a short drive from wild space. And maybe that's why Estonians seem so calm, so grounded. They're never far from the forests, the bogs, the sea. It's in their culture, their stories, their traditions. Even their modern digital lives are balanced by a deep connection to the land. Part 6. Estonia, a land forged by history. When you walk through Estonia's forests or stand on its windswept shores, It's easy to think of this as a place untouched by time, but that's an illusion. Beneath the quiet, this land has witnessed centuries of struggle, invasion, and rebirth. Estonia's history isn't just written in books, it's etched into its castles, its cobblestone streets, and even its people's resilience. The first footprints. Humans have been living here for thousands of years. The earliest settlers arrived after the Ice Age, following the retreating glaciers, hunting, fishing, and slowly building permanent villages. But Estonia's position on the map, on the shores of the Baltic Sea, between Scandinavia and Russia, meant it was always in the path of ambitious empires. And over the centuries, everyone seemed to want a piece of it. The age of castles and crusades. By the 13th century, German crusaders arrived, bringing Christianity and military conquest. They built stone fortresses across the land, many of which still stand today. Tallinn's old town is like a living time capsule from this era. Its towering walls and spire-topped churches look almost exactly as they did hundreds of years ago. Walk its narrow streets, and you can almost hear the echo of merchants bargaining in the marketplace, or knights' boots striking the cobblestones. Centuries of foreign rule. For most of its history, Estonia was ruled by someone else. Germans, Danes, Swedes, and eventually the Russian Empire. Each left their mark. The Swedes built schools and gave more rights to peasants. The Russians brought imperial architecture, but also heavy control. Estonians themselves, they endured. They kept their language alive in their homes, their folk songs in their gatherings, and their traditions in the countryside. The 20th century, freedom and loss. In 1918, after centuries of foreign domination, Estonia declared independence for the first time. It was a moment of pride, but it didn't last. During World War II, Estonia was invaded first by the Soviet Union, then by Nazi Germany, and then once again by the Soviets. For nearly 50 years, Estonia was under Soviet control. Its people were forced to adopt Soviet systems, its economy redirected, and its culture often suppressed. But here's the thing about Estonians. They don't forget who they are. The singing revolution. In the late 1980s, as the Soviet Union began to weaken, something remarkable happened in Estonia. Thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of people gathered in open-air concerts to sing their traditional songs. It wasn't just music, it was a peaceful protest, a way of saying, we are still here, we are still Estonian. This movement, known as the Singing Revolution, became a key part of Estonia regaining its independence in 1991. No guns, no violence, just voices and an unshakable belief in freedom. Independence restored. On August 20th, 1991, Estonia officially became free again. And unlike some countries that emerged from the Soviet era, Estonia knew exactly where it wanted to go, toward democracy, technology, and integration with the West. They joined the European Union, NATO, and turned their small size into an advantage, building a nimble, digital government that's now admired worldwide. Today, when Estonians look at their medieval towers and Soviet-era apartment blocks, they don't just see architecture, they see survival. They see proof that no matter how many times history tried to rewrite their story, they always found a way to take the pen back. Part 7. The Soul of Estonia. Meeting the people. If Estonia were a novel, its landscapes would be the setting, its history would be the plot, and its people, they'd be the quiet, complex, unforgettable characters you can't stop thinking about. The first impression. If you meet an Estonian for the first time, they probably won't rush into conversation. They might not even smile right away. Small talk, that's not really a national sport here. But don't mistake that for coldness. Estonians are like the forests they love. Tall, calm, and quiet on the outside, but full of life once you step inside. Nature runs in their veins. Nearly half of Estonia is covered in forests, and it's not just scenery, it's a part of their identity. Estonians don't just visit nature, they live in harmony with it. It's common to go mushroom picking, berry gathering, or to escape to a small wooden cabin on the weekend, and they follow something called the everyman's right, meaning anyone can walk, camp, or forage in the wild, as long as they respect the land. For many Estonians, the forest isn't just a place to relax, it's where they feel most themselves. The language of the land. Estonian is unlike most languages in Europe. It's part of the Finno-Ugric family, making it related to Finnish and distantly to Hungarian, but nothing like English, German, or Russian. It's melodic, full of vowel harmony, and carries centuries of poetry and folk songs. And while most young Estonians speak excellent English, the pride they have in their native language is deep and unshakable. Values that shape daily life. 3 things you'll notice about Estonians. 1. Self-reliance. They value independence, both as individuals and as a nation. 2. Practicality. If something can be done efficiently, that's how it will be done. 3. Trust. They trust their government's digital systems because those systems earned it through transparency and security. This quiet trust extends to everyday life. It's common to leave babies sleeping outside in strollers, while parents sip coffee inside a cafe because people trust one another here. A deep, silent pride. Estonians don't boast. They don't need to. But if you bring up their achievements from their Olympic athletes to their world-leading digital systems, you'll see that small smile. And if you happen to be here on Independence Day, when the streets fill with blue, black, and white flags, you'll feel just how much that freedom means to them. The younger generation. Modern Estonians are a fascinating blend. They're tech-savvy, globally connected, and speak multiple languages, yet they still go to their grandmother's countryside sauna and sing traditional songs at midsummer festivals. They've managed to keep their roots without being trapped by them. Part 8. Songs, fires, and forever traditions. Estonia's cultural heart. If technology is Estonia's brain, then culture is its beating heart. It's what has carried this small nation through centuries of invasions, occupations, and hard winters without losing its soul. And in Estonia, culture isn't just something you see in museums. It's alive, breathing, and still shared around fires, in forests, and in voices singing together under the open sky. The land of 1,000 songs. If you truly want to understand Estonia, you need to know this. It's a singing nation. In fact, they call it the Singing Revolution. In the late 1980s, when Soviet rule was still heavy over the land, Estonians didn't fight with weapons. They fought with songs. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered in Tallinn, singing traditional folk music and patriotic songs that had been banned. Those voices, strong and united, became a peaceful force that helped win back their independence, and they've never stopped singing since. Every 5 years, Estonia hosts the Laulupidu, the Song Festival. Imagine a choir of over 30,000 singers on one stage, with 100,000 people in the audience, all singing together. It's so powerful that even people who don't understand the language are moved to tears. Midsummer magic. Every June, on the shortest night of the year, Estonia lights up with Jaanipäev, Midsummer's Eve. Huge bonfires burn across the countryside. Families, friends, and sometimes whole villages gather to eat, dance, and stay awake until the morning sun. It's not just a party, it's a tradition that connects them to their ancestors, who marked this time as the turning point of the seasons. The sauna ritual. While Finland may be more famous for saunas, Estonia has its own deep tradition of them. For